In this video, I'm going to go over some common electrical issues that would cause your Toro Time Cutter to not start. I'm going to make it real easy for you. This is Rudy from Take a Bath Productions with another video showing you how to fix various things. If you're a subscribed member to my community, then welcome back. If you're new to this channel, consider clicking that subscribe button below, and please like this video if you found it helpful for you. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so your mower won't start, and you know it's not a carburetor issue or a fuel issue or anything like that. It definitely is an electrical issue. I wanted to talk about some of the possibilities that it could be. The first thing that I would do is check out your starter relay. Okay, you've got a blue wire and a green wire. Now I'm working on a Toro Time Cutter 42-inch. So let's talk about this blue wire first, okay? So the blue wire is 12 volts coming from the switch, okay? It does not depend on any safety switches or anything like that. I've got the key on to run, but when I hit start, I've got 12 volts there, okay? Now look at something peculiar here. Notice we've also got 12 volts on the green wire when we hit the key switch. Now that may be confusing to you, but the reason is the green wire is ground, and that ground is coming from the brake solenoid, brake actuator, whatever you want to call it. And if that ground is not present right there, that relay won't energize. All right, so notice I turn the key on. We have ground present. All right, let me disengage the brake. See that ground goes away. All right, so if that ground isn't present coming from the brake actuator, that relay isn't going to work. So when I hit the key, all right, it works. Okay, so the other thing that you're going to want to check is these heavy-duty terminals here. Naturally, on the battery side, you're going to have your 12 volts. Now, if your coil voltages are correct, as I just showed you a minute ago, your 12 volts will jump over here when you hit the key. If it does not jump over here when you hit the key, then you've probably got a bad relay. I'm not going to do it. It'll turn the engine over and start it. I don't want to start the engine right now. But rest assured, when this is working properly and your engine is cranking, you'll have 12 volts on this post going to your starter. Now, if you do have 12 volts on this post, but you still don't have the engine starting, you might want to take a look at the starter connections, or the starter itself may be bad. And you can easily test your starter by shorting these two terminals together. All right, like that. And if that works, then your starter's good. All right, so you want to do that at your own risk. I only showed you that as an easy test to see if the starter is indeed engaging. Now, if your starter relay checks out good, you'll want to make sure of your neutral safety switches. With the key on, move the drive levers back and forth and see if you hear the brake engaging and disengaging. Okay, if you don't hear anything, make sure that the levers are all the way out so that the switches are closed. You're also going to want to make sure the PTO switch is off. I know this one is obvious, but I figured I'd mention it anyways. The seat switch doesn't really matter. The mower would have normally started anyways. So if your lever switches are good and your starter still won't engage and all the other tests come out okay, then you probably might have a bad brake controller, so that's kind of bad news. Now, I do not recommend bypassing the brake controller for any longer than a temporary fix until you get another module. All right, now for some quick troubleshooting on the brake controller. The brake controller is located under the seat. I have removed the seat support for visual purposes only. You don't have to do that. All right, so I'm going to go through these wires real quick to tell you what normal looks like. That way you'll know if you have something that isn't normal. All right, so we're going to start with the red wire. Right here, you should have 12 volts all the time. Now there it is. Now that's coming directly from the fuse, so it shouldn't make any difference about switches or ignition switch or anything. That should be there all the time. All right, next I've got my meter moved over to the yellow wire with the key on. You'll have your 12 volts there. Now that one goes to the fuel relay, okay? All right, next we're moved over to the gray wire. Now, by the way, these voltages are all checked with the key on in the run position, unless I'm telling you otherwise. So the gray wire I've got it hooked to my meter here, is 12 volts with the PTO in and 0 volts with the PTO out. All right? In and engaged, okay? All right, next we're on the tan wire. Now you should have 12 volts coming from the drive lever switches. Now both levers are in the locked parking brake position. You have your 12 volts there. All right, I put them in the drive position and your 12 volts drops out. All right, that's because the switch opens up. Now if you put these in the locked position, like the parking brake position, and you don't have your 12 volts present there, you may have a bad switch or one of your levers may not be all the way out, so you'll have to investigate that further. Next, I've moved the meter over to the pink wire. That's 12 volts coming from the key starter switch in the run position again. All right, now switch your meter over to the lowest ohm scale and leave the black wire connected to the battery negative or chassis ground. All right, we're testing the green wire over here with our meter probe. All right, remember this green wire is the green wire I showed you earlier that grounds out the starter relay. Without this one, it's not going to work. This one is dependent on all these safety switches being proper so that this will provide you the ground to start your lawnmower. All right, so you should have ground or continuity with the key on. All right, there's key on. We have our ground present. And this will also work on start as well. The ground will be there on start, otherwise how's the relay going to energize? Also, you have no ground on key off, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, if you have correct voltages present on the other pins and this ground isn't present, then you've got a bad control module. So if your mower is stuck in the yard or on a job somewhere and you need to move the mower somewhere better so that you can work on it, I'm going to show you how to bypass the parking brake locks, and also I'm going to bypass the wiring without damaging it so you can start the engine and move the mower. All right, so all I did to bypass this is I pulled the plug out and I made a couple of little jumper wires, all right? We've got our black and green wires, right here, green's about in the middle. Now what this is going to do, the black wire is your ground that goes to your brake actuator. And of course the green, we've discussed about 10 times already, is your missing ground that would be on the starter relay. So this will provide the ground that goes to the starter relay. And if you have a newer model like this one that has a fuel solenoid in the carburetor, you'll need to provide power for that too, otherwise you won't get very far. And that's going to be the pink, which we discussed earlier, is switched on and off 12 volts from your key switch, and the yellow wire goes to the to the fuel solenoid, so that will provide power to your fuel solenoid so that it'll keep running. All right, that's all you need to do. Now, if you're going to move the mower, you might want to put some tape around this or something so it's not shorting against something and blowing fuses and causing you all kinds of problem. All right, but we still have the problem of the brake, emergency brake is locked. So let me show you how to bypass that real quick and we'll be done. Okay, so it's very easy to disable the brake right here. You just have this cog that wraps around this gear on the transaxle. I'll show you the other side here in just a second. All you need is a 3/8 wrench and take the one bolt out, take that off and lay it down on top of the bracket and wire tie it down. All right, for a temporary, so you can move the lawnmower around. Okay, here's the other side. Okay, you could pull from here and wire tie it to something. You could pull it from the other side and wire tie that one to something. But to me, you know, it's just easier to take out one bolt with this 3/8 wrench. Okay. All right. That just comes off of there real easy, and just orient that out of the way. Lay it on the bracket and wire tie it down. All right, just leave it wherever, it's out of the way. Okay, this is a good fix until the brake module comes in. That's all there is to it. So that's how you do all that. Thanks for watching.